This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Know-How is brought to you by CacheFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This episode of Know-How is brought to you by Tracker, a coin-sized tracking device that pairs with your smartphone and keeps you from losing your most valued possessions. Visit thetracker.com right now and enter promo code KNOWHOW to save 20% off any order.
Today on Know-How,
3D printed Switch docks
and the best drawing apps that we could come up with. Oh, you didn't mute me, did you?
Does that happen sometimes?
Yes! Welcome to Know-How, the show that where we build, bend, break, and upgrade and use sheep transitions. I'm Brian Burnett.
I'm Nathan Levitas-Giles.
And today we have a guest TD, Patrick Delahanty, which, thank you for doing that, Patrick. That made me laugh. I liked that.
Yeah, you did that.
Yeah, I
or
set a
maybe
little
Alex
trap
set a
for you.
trap. I don't know.
You know what? I probably did do that on purpose.
And everybody pretty much knows, but Patrick runs all of the web things here and builds apps and is just an all-around brilliant guy.
Yeah, he does.
So pretty
He
excited.
actually, in following with our drawing stuff that we're going to do later, he made stickers out of all the old logos and stuff for what is it, iMessage? Is that iMessage stuff?
Yep.
Yeah. And then you have done your own set of stickers that you've drawn.
Yeah.
And uploaded.
Back when I was at the Wall Street Journal, my then colleague Joanna Stern wrote a column on how easy it was to make iMessage apps, because basically all the templates you could want are in Apple's Xcode software. So it's really, really simple, very minimal coding know-how necessary, and what you do need are illustrations. So I did those for that project, and we drew some cartoon versions of Her Dog Browser. We'll look at those a little bit later in the show when we look at drawing apps, but I did some layers and some fun stuff. Cool. Started on an iPad Pro, then brought it into Photoshop with my laptop, exported it in the right formats and sizes and all that good stuff.
Yeah, I'll have to pick your brain about that.
Yeah, it was super easy. But all of the art we're going to show off isn't going to be as good as what Patrick's wife does.
Yeah, that's true. Svetlana she gets paid to draw. I just do it for fun.
Yeah, I just do it for fun. That iMessage app was not something I got paid for. Well, I guess technically I did, because I did it on the clock back then. But it was a free app, and it was really fun.
Yeah. And we'll go over some of the basics of maybe how to draw, but yeah, doing some circles and things like that. My little brother's a lot better. He actually did the faces behind you there.
Yeah, these are fantastic.
I mean, I love that you have a collar now. That Padre's been crossed out, and it
Poor
says
Padre.
Nate OG now.
I did not do this, Padre. If you're seeing this wasn't me.
Well, this is how we make it look more like you. We just get rid of the collar.
And then we just need to add a little beard. And
we'll do that
there
later.
There you go.
Take that, Padre. But before we get to all the fun drawing stuff, we wanted to return back to the 3D printed Switch dock that I started to do, ran out of filament.
What, like 2-3 episodes ago?
2 or 3 episodes ago,
okay.
Yeah.
We took apart the existing dock. We bought one on Amazon. It's like a $90 kit. And basically, if you buy this, you get the full dock. You get the AC power adapter, you get an HDMI cable. It's pretty expensive. I wish Nintendo wouldn't charge so much for this. But the reason why they sell it separately is basically if you have a Switch, since it's a portable system, you dock it here, then it plugs into your TV. And the thinking is, maybe you want to keep a Switch at your friend's house or your
Or you have
your
two
grandma's
TVs
house,
in your house. Or something.
Yeah, maybe you got 2 TVs in your house, whatever. So $90, but
which they can charge right now because there isn't any third-party ones that are out yet.
That's going to change.
There will be soon, and we'll talk about that too. But this was a design I picked up off of Thingiverse, and I want to give full credit to Benjamin Marte, who you can follow on Twitter. I'll have the link in the show notes. But he goes by the Twitter handle of @BenMarte, so pretty easy. But he came up with the design. It's one of the most popular ones I found on Thingiverse. It's called Docky. So this is, if you go to my laptop, Patrick, I have it on the site. And like most of the things on Thingiverse, it's free to download. They do, ask if you could tip the designer. So if you happen to really like Docky, you can share the love by tipping Ben here. But it was one of the slimmer ones that I could find, and I think it came out all right. If you go to the overhead shot, you can see there's not a lot to it. We've got the top part, we've got a middle part, the bottom part that the Switch will lay on top of, and then this is supposed to be like a little front, not front door, but like shield that you flip up and over. And I did a little custom lettering on it. Instead of it saying Docky, it says NATO G, because this will be yours.
Awesome. I really appreciate the love there.
Yeah,
Very
totally.
Cool. Yeah, it came out pretty good. I like that it has the Switch logo here, and it's really cool. Like, I mean, you know, depending on the 3D printer you have, fidelity will vary, so smoother edges and things like that. But I kind of like the fact that this looks 3D printed. It has the ridges, it has some texture to it. It's kind of fun. You can tell that this was homemade, so to speak.
Yes, it definitely has a homemade feel to it. And yeah, just so people know in the audience, I have a XYZ DaVinci 1.0, which came out like 3 years ago. It came out at $300. I think you can get it for less than that now. The fidelity on it isn't as good as some of the ones like the Monoprice MakerBot stuff, but it does all right. It's fun for fast prototyping. It works for the things that I do, and you know, it's one of the cheaper ones on the market. But anyway, why don't we start trying to put some of this together and see if it all fits?
Well, okay, so before we put it together, I guess I put everything in bags here. This might just be like me being a little OCD or whatever, but basically as we took it apart, I put all the screws in one bag, put the little actual charging USB port in another, and then the main, you know, little board in another, just because I didn't want like screws to like get lost in some port or something to get messed up. You know, I was just like super, and I knew since we were going to do this like in a week or two after the original deconstruction of the dock, I want to make sure all of our stuff didn't get lost, especially some of these screws are really, really small. And there's a good mix. There's like tri-head screws, there's regular Phillips screws. We used a iFixit toolkit that Brian had to take everything apart. And so that's what we did before we got here. Go back and watch that other episode if you want to see how easy it is to take apart. It's really simple. Nintendo is basically just bolting things together, and it makes it really friendly to take it apart. More friendly than the price tag to buy it, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's true. Really easy to take apart because most of the dock is just a shell.
Yeah, it's basically a shell for this, right?
That little
this
thing.
And that, yeah. There's not much to it.
Which, I mean, the whole reason I want a slim dock is so that I can throw it in the case that the traveling case that I got from my Switch, and then just go to someone's house and be able to plug it in on their TV.
Yeah, it's kind of a pain to carry around. Actually, let me pull
Do you have the pieces in there still?
Yeah. And then I just kept everything in this original. This is the original case it came in. And let's see here. Yeah, so move these to
I also
the
know
side.
with the dock that Nintendo released, they've had issues of people scratching up their screens, which isn't an issue for me because the first thing I did was put on a screen protector, but not everybody likes to do that.
Yeah, through the magic of editing, we will show you my basically this is the original dock. We took it apart, but that's how it fit together. It's really, really simple. And through the magic of editing, we will show
how it all falls apart.
Yeah, how it all falls apart. This is where that original piece basically lived. So it's that simple. But yeah, through the magic of editing, we'll show my kind of beat up screen. There's just like some little pieces on the bottom corners. It's not actually on the display itself, like the part where you would play the game.
Yeah.
But on the border,
the bezel.
On the bezel, yeah, you'd see some kind of scuffed up.
That would still irritate me though.
It's irritating for sure, and you know, it's one big reason why you'd want to consider a third-party dock, whether it's one you make yourself or whether it's one you buy, because it's just every time I put my Switch into my dock now, because I've started to see those scratches, I'm like extra nervous about it. So then like I'll like try and push it back so that it doesn't touch the front, but then I'm thinking, okay, am I scratching up the back in the process?
Right. Or you try and put a cloth in there to try and protect it, but then you're just reducing more of the airflow, which they've already had issues of the Switch bending from the heat. So. Yeah,
it's a definite issue. So do you want to put it in there, or should I? Or
yeah, let's. You can just fit it in there. I think you had it. You were showing me how you placed it in earlier.
Yeah, so it's really, really simple. So basically, you just want to line up the ports here. On this side, you have your two USB ports for, say, like charging controllers. On this side is where you have your HDMI port, your USB port for the AC adapter, and then a USB-C port, and so then we will line it all up.
Yeah.
And it's really simple. Basically, you just kind of shove the two USBs over for charging through, and then it just lays down. And then once it does that, it's all perfectly lined up.
Relatively, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you know, there's a little bit of gaps, and like as you mentioned earlier, depending on the fidelity of your 3D printer, you might have a better fit or not. But this actually works out really, really easily. And then from there, you just place on this little bottom panel. Let's see if I do this right.
And while you're doing that, I'm like removing the little USB-C docking part.
Yep.
Let's see if we can get it out.
A little screwdriver. And then I guess it looks like, for this one, I'm guessing we'll probably just use some of the longer Phillips screws, right?
Yeah, I think the Phillips screws should work. You just need like the 4 sides, and then I think before you even do that, like, Patrick, if you go to my screen, you can see that here is the assembled version on the on the Thingiverse webpage.
With the custom cover flipped up.
Yeah, with the custom, because the cover kind of adds a little bit of back support for the Switch to lay up against.
But it doesn't look like it's mandatory per se.
No, it's not. Nice. And then you can also have like the little LED in front.
Oh, clever.
Yeah.
I like it. Yeah, this is a really great design. Again, Ben Marte at Ben Marte on Twitter.
Yeah, good job on the design, Ben. And there's quite a few other ones too on Thingiverse, but this one was the one that stood out to me because it was definitely made for like traveling.
Yeah, which is pretty key.
I'm going through all the different bits that I have here. And disclaimer, iFixit is a sponsor of the network, but whenever I'm disassembling stuff, this is definitely a must-have. Although, I need a very tiny Phillips. Let me look. Ah, there you are. So do you bring your Switch over to people's houses and play it? Do you bring everything with you?
Yeah, actually, well, luckily right now, I'm dog sitting / house sitting for my buddy Mark and his wife Christina. They're on a trip, and he has a Switch, so he already has the dock set up there. So I literally can just drop my dock drop my Switch in his dock. It works on his TV just fine. But yeah, when I'm going over to a friend's place, we've already had some Mario Kart parties and 1-2 Switch and all sorts of things. And in those situations, you got to bring the whole kit. And you know the Nintendo Switch dock it's not too small. I mean, it's about the size of like maybe like 3 or 4 old school DVD cases like stacked on top of each other, a little bit more dense and heavy. It's a nice, good, you know, hard plastic. It's decent quality, but at the same time, it takes up a decent amount of space in your backpack. And I have a Switch case, and it would be nicer to just kind of be able to just, like you said, drop in a slimmer dock into that case rather than feeling like you have to carry a full backpack if you want to go from place to place with this thing.
Right. Now, the only other thing that I have issue with that Nintendo needs to solve is how are they going to transfer your save files and things like that? Because right now, everything you do on your Switch is stuck to that device.
Yeah, and that's a big problem. I mean, that's something Nintendo says it's working on, but so far they don't have a fix for, which is kind of a shame. I mean, I want to give Nintendo credit and props all day for making the Switch a really fantastic system so far, for living up to their promises of delivering a lot of games to play every single month. They have, it seems like, a major release, some great indie titles. But if my Switch got damaged, I'd have to start from the ground up on Breath of the Wild. I've got something close to 100 hours in there already.
Oh yeah,
you know
me too. I'm at like 80 and I still haven't even beaten the game.
Exactly, and this is an issue that that I have with some Nintendo stuff. Is the games are great, but
my head's gonna get in the way real quick. Sorry, people, but sorry, Nate. What I'm doing is I'm reattaching the ribbon.
Yep.
So I want to be sure to
onto the board. So you basically got to line it up, and then you just push down that clasp, and it should fit right in. Right? It should be a fairly easy thing to do.
It should be.
Once you get it lined up.
if you've watched prior episodes of Know How, there was an episode where I was doing something similar to hardware that Alex brought in, an old Apple computer, and I totally destroyed it. But not the case this time, because this isn't brittle plastic, but there's a little tab that flips up, you line up the ribbons, and it just clips in, so no, it's nice and
to
solid.
open that previously, we used a little smudger tool, right?
Yeah, just a little plastic smudger. Don't want to use one of the metal ones, because it can really mar the plastic and stuff. And then just attach the little USB-C part there. It fits in nice and cozy where it's gonna rest the Switch. And so we had put it in there. I realized there's standoffs on the bottom board so that you can like lock it in.
Awesome. So the board's attached to the bottom piece. Now I just
gotta
clip it all together.
Clip it all together. We'll just make sure the ribbon's okay, and then boop, boop. It's a little bit of a tight fit because
the way I had it before was you start with the USB charging ports first, and then you kind of push it through that little window, and then you can get the rest in.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can actually do that again, or not.
Well, it's because it's kind of a cramped space now, and so the ribbon, you probably have to fold it in a certain way to get it to fit right.
Yeah, and that's what I'm trying to figure out right now.
We're trying to be delicate while also doing it live. Not easy.
But yeah, as I'm doing this, I will finish my rant.
Oh yeah, about save game file stuff, right?
Yeah, cloud saves are something that Microsoft and Sony both offer.
Yeah.
With their online services. I'm hoping that when Nintendo has their online service that they will charge for, that'll be included, because it really is an expectation for modern console gaming these days.
To be able to move from device to device like that and have all your, like the way I like it is the way Steam does it, where I buy the game.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what PC I have, it's all in my library, my game library.
Yeah, it's similar to what you get on like Google Play's App Store or Apple's App Store, where your purchases follow you from device to device. That actually had been the promise with the Nintendo Switch, and we'll see if they live up to that.
Yeah.
But Nintendo says going forward, if you buy a game from Nintendo, you'll be able to bring your purchases over with you when you buy a new device, a new system, a new product. And hopefully the cloud saves will be part of that. But
that's kind of the way it works on the 3DS. But you basically have to wipe your old 3DS to then move it to a new one. Yeah. Yeah,
even with the Wii U, I got a new Wii U at some point, and I had to call Nintendo customer service, deregister my old one, then re-register, and then I was able to download games. Wasn't able to get my saves. Too much of a pain in the butt.
So now you've got the board inside of the top part of the case, and you just got to do 4 screws at each corner on the bottom.
Yep. And that's about it. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. And then, once you get all those, let's see, I got the other screws in this bag. Once you get all that done, then you're good to go. And this is something that can fit in your case a lot easier than, let me go, the other piece, after I put it back together, than this. So, I mean, it's kind of
side by side.
Yeah, it's kind of not even a contest as far as what's bigger and what's easier to carry around.
There's just so much more plastic added.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. Yeah, that'll definitely fit in my backpack. The nice thing about, since you've ordered another dock to get the components and stuff, you have another AC adapter, because you do have to be careful about which one you order. Not all adapters will work with the Switch. You have to get one that'll do, I think it's 2.5 amps.
Yeah, not all power bricks in this case are created equal and good enough basically to feed the Switch. It's not a monster power consumer, but it's going to require more than your phone. It's
going to require more juice, and I know there's some people, like I bought a travel size one that works with my phone, which is USB-C also, and it works with the Switch. But sometimes people get nervous about not using like the proprietary version of like the Switch AC. So you've got another one, which is nice to have. Yeah, it's nice to have backups, which is always a beautiful thing. Cool. Well, I think that concludes our 3D printed travel dock. I think it came out all right. Yeah. Your mileage may vary depending on your 3D printer and the resolution that you're able to achieve with that. But like 3D printers, where they're at right now is kind of like the early days of computers. You got to tweak them a lot. You got to baby them. Sometimes they break, but in general, it's fun to do these like prototype projects and stuff with them. Yeah, and that's part of the fun of having a 3D printer. This is really,
you know, if you consider yourself a maker, you like to make things. Along with that comes the occasional hardship of like, oh, I made that wrong, or I don't have the right material, or it's a little bit tougher than going out and buying something. But if you're buying a 3D printer, you probably like those challenges.
Yeah.
And that
and making your own little projects and stuff that you can do.
Exactly. But there are some options that are on the way. Nyko is actually making a Switch dock that is about the same size, it looks like. Yeah,
I have that up on my computer, Patrick. There we go.
Yeah, portable docking for the Nintendo Switch. They announced this at E3 a couple weeks ago in Los Angeles. It's $45, so about half the price of the $90 kit that Nintendo sells. This is a third-party product, but you know, Nyko makes a bunch of gaming accessories for basically all the consoles, and it seems to be a worthwhile brand. We haven't tried one out ourselves, so, you know, but it definitely looks like it should definitely not scrape up your screen, if nothing else.
Definitely not scrape up your screen. Optimum airflow, and the fact that it's even smaller than what we were able to 3D print here. So it's pretty impressive, but it also goes to show like there needs to be third-party options from that. The Nintendo can't just like lock down their stuff like that, because people are being gouged. I mean, there's other stuff Nintendo that they make, like the NES Classic. There's announced, I think this week was the SNES Classic that's coming out too.
For $80.
It's going to be $80, but they always have like manufacturing limitations and stuff, which is, you know, bound to happen. But if you let third-party options be out there, there's a little bit more variety and you don't like feel like you're getting gouged.
For sure. I mean, this one, the Nyko option, is small enough that you could carry it on the road, but the fact that, as you mentioned, the airflow is better because there's nothing impeding the console, really, and, you know, it won't scratch up your screen. This might even be something that I would consider using at home. I do have a little bit of worries of stability and keeping the dock in place, since there's so little to it.
Yeah.
You know, when you place it in the Nintendo dock,
it does look like it could be tipped over pretty easily.
Yeah. You know, heaven forbid there's an earthquake in San Francisco and that thing falls off my TV unit. And there go my game saves, because Nintendo hasn't figured out a cloud saving system yet. Hopefully Nintendo figures it out soon.
You just get to play all those games again. Oh, what's wrong with that?
Can't wait to put another 100 hours into Zelda. And I'm not even close to being done. But you know, it's one of those games that I want to put hundreds of hours into.
Right.
But I don't want to have to start over.
Yeah, no, I'm totally the same way. I think everyone feels that way.
Yeah.
Cool.
But there should be some more third-party options coming out. But yeah, clearly you have a choice. Like, if you like to make things, go 3D print your own stuff. If you don't, if you just want to buy it off the shelf, you're going to have nice portable options for that too. Might be a little bit cheaper, but hey, you're not going to have the fun of making it yourself.
Yeah, and part of the fun of doing it on this show is that we can ask someone in our audience if you had a better idea or a different design. Please do that, and you can post it on our Google Plus page. If you go there and you just type in know-how, you'll be able to find it. If you're not part of the community, join in. You can post your project in. Basically, show us up and be like, yeah, that one was cool, but this one's better.
Yeah, let us know if we're doing it wrong. That's I get alerts from that know-how Google Plus community almost every day. Super active, lots of great ideas there.
Right. All right, well, that concludes our Nintendo portable dock project, but we're going to take a moment to thank some sponsors.
This episode of Know-How is brought to you by Tracker, a coin-sized device that helps you basically keep from losing your most valuable possessions. There's a ritual to looking for your keys. First, you check the obvious places: your couch, your kitchen, your pockets, then the weird places: the bathroom, the fridge, the hamper. Then you start getting creative. I'm looking at you, Peanut Butter Jar. 8 years ago, Tracker changed everything when they released their first tracking device, and now they've done it again with the all-new Tracker Pixel. With the Tracker Pixel, you'll never have to worry about losing your things again. Tracker Pixel is the lightest Bluetooth tracking device on the market. You place the Tracker Pixel on whatever you tend to lose: your keys, your wallet, even your cat. It's small enough that it can fit on your smallest items. When you misplace an item that the Tracker Pixel has been attached to, you can use your smartphone, and a 90 decibel alert will help you find it in seconds. It even has a powerful LED light so you can find your items in the dark. Lose your phone? Just press the button on your Tracker Pixel and your phone rings, even if your phone's on silent. You can even locate your item if it's miles away because every Tracker user is part of the largest crowd location network in the world. And Tracker's 30-day money-back guarantee means you truly have nothing to lose. Go to thetracker.com and enter promo code KNOWHOW. That's TheTracker.com. The promo code KNOWHOW for 20% off any order. And we thank Tracker for their support of Know How.
And we're back. So, like we teased, you've got your iPad Pro, which is, what, 12 inches?
Yeah, this is the 12.9 inch. This is the big boy iPad Pro. This isn't the new one with the 120 hertz display. This is the first generation iPad Pro. But it's one of the nicest tablet computers that I've had. I really love its size, specifically because I like to draw on this thing.
That's a lot of drawing real estate.
Yeah, and you know, when if I'm like sitting on my couch and I'm using Twitter as I'm watching sports, or I'm like checking email, my phone's good for that, right?
Yeah.
Or an iPad mini if you're reading a book like before bed. This thing's too big. Like, you're not gonna read before bed holding this above your face.
No.
Because it'll fall on your face.
Right, that would do some damage.
Yeah, the size is great for, say, if you're like on an airplane and you're watching movies for 10 hours or whatever, that's fine.
But this is a lot closer to like the size of a notebook that I would have that I would draw in.
Exactly. My laptop has a 13-inch display. This is basically about the same, and this is about the same size as an actual drawing notebook that I'd be carrying in my backpack too. So it's nice to kind of converge some of those devices before all into one. There are 3 drawing apps that I'm going to recommend to folks today. I'm going to kind of walk you through the differences in those and what I think that they're best for. I think the most accessible and easiest one to use, let's say that you want to draw and you've never really spent a lot of time with Adobe apps and things like that. You want a lower learning curve. Maybe
it can be overwhelming trying to start Photoshop without any frame of reference.
I think there's an intimidation factor to a lot of Adobe desktop apps, and to a certain extent that's warranted. I mean, I've been using, I actually started with the Corel series of creative apps when I was in high school. I got into Adobe stuff in college, so I've been using them for a really long time. And even still, every once in a while, I'm like, okay, there's something I want to know how to do. How do you figure that out? You know, so it's like, even if you've been using this for a long time, you probably have your workflows and things like that. So the place to start, if you're not even sure that you like drawing on a tablet, I think is Paper by 53. And this is a really easy to use app. It's pretty basic. It's not going to give you as many options as some of the other apps that I'll show you today, but I think this is the simplest one to use. Basically, you have different what they call spaces, and you can have like a little grid of art here, and they always start out with this learning section first. This is what's already included, and they'll show you how to do, say, flow charts and diagrams. They'll show you how to make lists. They'll show you how to even go into photos and kind of edit what's going on there. The tutorials are really nice and friendly, and they also sell their own stylus called the Pencil. You can get one of these on Amazon now. I think when it came out, it was like $100 or $150. Now I think you can get one for $40 or $50 on Amazon. Actually, I don't know if you want to pull it up and we can look at the listing.
Yeah, sure. I'll take a look for it. But you've also got the Apple Pencil, which, how much is that one? $100?
You know what? I can't remember how much the Apple Pencil is right now because I bought it so long ago. But let me go into the Apple Store app and let's see how much it is. All right.
What is the name of that app again for the Pencil? 53. 53. I wrote 58.
Oh, okay.
No wonder it didn't come up. Yeah, it's actually...
Yeah, it's $99. Okay.
And why is there one that's
$28?
28, but then there's one that's 60. What's the refurbished. Okay. So brand new. We'll just do the brand new.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I think when it first came out, it was like $100. Okay, cool. So yeah, the Pencil, the 53 Pencil, they have their own stylus. It's really nice. It's made of wood. I actually have one of these, but I left it at home today, so apologies for not bringing that in to actually show you guys physically. But you can get it for about $60 on Amazon. If you want to get a refurbished one, you can even get it for $30.
Yeah.
Up to you as to whether you want to buy new or refurb. I tend to go for the refurb stuff usually.
Yeah, usually I do too, but I'm not really, when I draw, I'm not a fan of square pencils. I never drew with square pencils, so I don't know how well that would translate for me.
Yeah, this one has a little bit more of a blunt and kind of wider tip.
Yeah.
These, I just did a couple little drawings here to show you guys that I actually did.
I recognized her.
Yeah, so this was maybe a little bit more slightly realistic version of Marge, but still with the gigantic bulging eyes.
And the hair.
And the hair. So basically what I did, part of the reason why it looks so messy is I used kind of a light, more pencil-like kind of blue outline of what I wanted, and then I went in and kind of drew things with colors to kind of get basically what the general shapes that I wanted, and then I went and did like a black outline after the fact, after the that was done. Now, it's kind of what I like paper for is basically if you just want to jot down an idea really quickly. It's a bit more like an actual sketchbook rather than like a proper work environment where I'm going to be doing a lot of layers and things like that. But as you can see, the user interface is super simple. You just tap on the pencil icon here, and then you can see your different options with a brush or markers and an eraser and a pretty simple color palette. And then, of course, you can have this like little tool to kind of blend colors together.
Oh, that's neat.
Yeah, so that's where you find your custom colors. It's really, really simple. The learning curve is like almost non-existent. I did my own kind of rendition of Anakin Skywalker. I've been watching a lot of the Star Wars Clone Wars cartoon recently because that's one of my favorite versions of Star Wars.
I thought you were going to say the prequels, and I was going to be very upset.
No. Specifically the ones that were on Cartoon Network, the Clone Wars. I love that version of Star Wars. Highly underrated. Go watch it if you haven't seen it. It actually makes Anakin an interesting and well fleshed out character. Here's a little Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Nice.
So yeah, you got some options, and here's a drawing that
that's awesome.
I did of a woman flipping the bird. That may or may not be safe for work.
It's fine. It's art.
Yeah, and then sometimes I just like want to plan out, okay, I'm going to buy a piece of furniture, a credenza, where am I going to put the things that I have?
Smart.
And so I like to visualize things that way as well. So a really, really straightforward, simple app. Now, if you're like me and you want to take things a little bit further, you want to get into a little bit more detail, my favorite app for that sort of thing is called Adobe Draw. Now this is an Adobe product, but unlike Photoshop and Lightroom and Illustrator, you don't have to be as intimidated by this. There's a little bit less of a learning curve. It's a bit similar to Paper by 53 in that you have these different essentially spaces. They call them projects here, and so. I have a podcast with a couple friends called Buzzkill. When I was basically coming up with different fonts, I was like playing around on the pencil. I wanted something that had like a handwritten feel, and playing with the idea of script over the top of a collage of images. One of our earliest episodes spoke about John Wick and my buddy Brian's corgi, so it kind of
I approve of that corgi image.
yeah, I kind of mashed those things up together. And I played with fonts and, okay, yeah, this works, this might not work. One of the things that's really nice is if you have any stylus or pencil, you can also use your finger. It's really simple. You can just kind of zoom in and out here. You have your different pens and pencils and options. You can pick your color. You have a lot more choice for your color palette. And then when you find colors you like, you can actually add them to a library, so you can just go back to those colors quickly and find what you want. It's really, really nice and simple. So let's say, okay, I'm not quite sure if this is working out. You can barely see lettering, and then I want to try a different color. You just select your option, and then you can just hold down. Oh, I actually have to go to my
Your head is slightly in the shot.
Oh,
no, that's okay.
Get out the way. That would probably help. Let's see here. All right.
So did you just make another layer to then draw?
Yeah, that's what I did, but I want to delete that. Lo and behold, as I'm talking about how great and easy it is to use the app, I'm not able to do what I want to do. So basically what I want to do is I want to change the color of this hand-drawn, poorly drawn text here. So I'm going to zoom in so I can get onto that line really easily, and then I'll hold down on my pencil on that. Why is it not working?
It's like making a shape. Is that?
Yeah, but it's supposed to basically when I go in.
Oh, like you're trying to fill that black line.
I'm just trying to change the color. Like if you hold down on it, it'll change the color. So not sure why that's not working. Let me try. I did it earlier with this.
Buzzkill.
Okay, there you go.
There you go.
Yeah, so I guess you can edit that out, the part that doesn't work or whatever. So, so let's say that I want to change the color of this hand-drawn, poorly drawn fonts. I was using a purplish color to stand out a little bit more. I'm going to switch it up to, let's go to a straight up black, which will obviously blend in. But just for the purposes of trying this out, you can use your stylus or your pencil or even your finger to automatically change the color of something that's already filled in, which is really nice. So that's a quick and easy way to basically do a fill as you would in Photoshop.
Nice.
And one of the things that I really like about this too are layers. I'll show you a work in progress. I'm a big 90s basketball fan. So I'll show you here a drawing that I did of Muggsy Bogues and Larry Johnson, Grandmama, and you know,
a little bit of a height difference there.
A little bit of a height difference. If you're not super into you know, drawing freehand, you can always start with basically a photo. You can mess with the opacity here as well, and you can just straight up trace. And if that's what works for you, there's an option. So I'm gonna actually hide that layer, and so you can see here basically my pencil tracing and the difference in what you see and what you get. And you can of course do different layers to add on, say, different colors. So if I want to add the teal of their uniforms back in my own hand-drawn version, there's a nice way to do that as well. So pretty straightforward. And of course, as I mentioned, you have these different spaces, these different projects to put different things that you're working on. I have a different project here of people. You can get some like real detail and like different lines and quality and things like that. Obviously this is a bit more interpretive and less realistic looking, more freehand. But here I started on a cartoony version of Charles Barkley again. I'm a 90s basketball head. So let's say that I want to move this document over. Tap on the little 3 dots up in the corner, just choose, whoops. I just choose select document. I can select that document, and then down the corner I can actually move it over to other projects. So I'll move it over to my random project. It's no longer in the people project, and I can go over to my random and I can find my different 90s basketball drawings that I'm working on here.
Nice.
So
I like that project management feature. You can like clearly see what's in the folders too. Because sometimes when I just save drawings to my hard drive, I forget like where I wanted things categorized.
Yeah, this is really glanceable, really easy to understand and see what you got super quickly. These are the iMessage stickers that I did with my colleague Joanna Stern for her app Pupmoji, and you can see the different things that I drew here. Let's take a look at her dog Browser with the spectacles from Snapchat, the glasses that you don't see too often.
That is a very trendy dog.
It's a very trendy dog, indeed. And again here I was using different layers. I basically started with a base layer of the dog's kind of general shape and face. I did that in brown, and then went in with a black overline after the fact, added that in, and then that's when I started adding detail. And after I was done with all that, that's when I added in the glasses to kind of build on top of a drawing. Now if I was doing this, you know, on paper, I probably obviously wouldn't be doing layers. I'd be doing one thing at a time. But part of the fun of this is you can do those layers. You can switch and swap out pieces as needed. So that is Adobe Draw. And one of the great things about it is that this connects with your Adobe Creative Cloud. So if you are an Adobe subscriber and you're using their software, you can bring in other images and other projects that you're working on. You open up Adobe desktop apps, you'll see these projects that you're working on here. And so let's say that I want to add on an image layer. I'm going to go to My Files, and this is all the stuff that I have stored in Adobe's cloud. Awesome. This is actually the cover, screen art, or whatever you want to call it, episode art for that podcast that I make with a couple friends called Buzzkill. But you can see these different things, and if you want to bring those in, you can actually bring stuff in as its own layer, which is pretty nice. And then once it does it.
Okay, so you're importing this into
this project. Now this is obviously 2 incompatible pieces, but if I wanted to do that, I can actually do that, and you can resize it as as necessary. You hit done, and then it's just a layer like anything else, so you can get rid of it temporarily if you want. You can keep it, you can change the opacity, and this is a nice way to kind of work on things that maybe look a little bit more mixed media or a little bit more collagey for a feel too. And that's a really simple way to get at those things. I'll delete that layer, and then of course whatever's on your iPad, you can see that as well. So I'll go into, this is my buddy's dog that I'm dog sitting right now, Goron, and you can do the same exact thing as you would with those images in the cloud, but this time it's just stored on your iPad. So it works out pretty easily. And another option that a lot of folks like is Autodesk Sketchbook. And as you can see, this one feels a little bit more like a desktop app. You have you know, actual text you can add, shapes, you know, rulers, all sorts of things. Basically the exact same tools that are available in Adobe Draw are available here. The user interface is a little bit more complicated, but if you take the time, it's worth the learning curve. This is one that a lot of people love. I personally prefer Adobe Draw, but if you try out Adobe Draw and it's just not working for you, but you want that higher level of customizability and workflow, Autodesk Sketchbook is a great choice.
Okay, out of the 3, which do you find yourself using the most?
For me, it's Adobe Draw.
Adobe Draw.
You know, I started out using Paper. Paper's been out for a while, and Adobe apps kind of had to catch up. But Adobe Draw has been great for a couple years now. Really enjoying that. I'm mostly using the Apple Pencil these days, but some other options if you don't want to spend $100 on a stylus, a pencil, a drawing tool for your tablet. Also, the Apple Pencil only works with the iPad Pro. Maybe you have multiple devices. You have a couple different iPads. Maybe you have, you know, an iPad and then you have a Surface or an Android phone or whatever, and you want to draw on all these different things. The Pencil from 53 works on not just Apple devices and not just the iPad Pro, but Adonit is another company that makes really great styluses, and here are a couple options from them. This one, the Adonit Pixel, is pretty nice. Not quite the fidelity and pressure sensitivity of the Apple Pencil, but still not as stubby of a tip as you'd find on the Pencil from 53.
Okay.
So a good choice, and these are a lot more affordable as well, and simply charge via USB. So, you know, pretty
long battery life on all of them.
Pretty long battery life, which is pretty great. One more, I guess, advantage of the Apple Pencil is that it's kind of weird to plug it in here.
That freaks me out.
And it bugs a lot of people, and I get that. But it charges up really quickly. You put it in there, and after a few minutes, you probably have something like 15, 20 minutes of drawing if you just need to do something quick. And you can get to 100% within minutes as well. But basically, this is siphoning off power from the iPad Pro.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can see why you might be worried.
It just makes me nervous. Like, functionally, I understand how and why it works like that.
It totally works because you have these things together. But yeah, it's like, if you're going to do this, don't put this like on the edge of a table where someone could walk by and like snap the thing off or something.
Or continue to use your iPad while it's plugged in and then like, oops.
Yeah, definitely. There is actually a little dongle that comes with the Pencil, so that if you don't want to do that, you can just plug it to the end of like a USB cable.
Okay.
And that works out fine.
A little bit safer.
Yeah, a little bit safer.
Okay. So for me, like, I'm much more comfortable drawing with a pen and paper. Like that traditionally, like that is how I learned how to draw. Do any of these compare to that? Like, is there one that you feel gives you that kind of texture? Or?
I'd say the one for me that's closest would have to be the Apple Pencil. It takes some time to get used to. As you can see here, you know, I played around with different sizes and pen tips and things like that to kind of find a mixture between big, bold lines and, you know, more sinewy, smaller sizes. What's nice is if you go into, I'm going to add on a new layer here so that I don't mess with anything that I've already got. But if you want to go in here, you just tap on the color basic or the size, and then you can just move it up or down to get the different size of the tip that you want.
Okay.
So you can really get something that is super high fidelity if that's what you'd like, and you can get in and you can do those details.
Really zoom in, yeah.
Yeah, the latency on this is really nice, and then if you press down harder, then you can get the bolder lines.
Yeah.
That mimics what you would get more closely from paper and pen. You also get your angles as well, which is pretty nice. I'll go into a larger size so you can kind of see the difference here.
Yeah, and if you hold it at a different angle, it'll kind of...
Yeah, it kind of bends with you. So that's a lot more like what you'd get from a traditional, you know, analog paper and pen. But it's still different. I mean, there's, you know, this is a piece of glass and it doesn't feel like paper. This is what I found that's the closest and the most comfortable for me, but it still is different. You kind of have to get comfortable in the same way that I like to draw with regular pencils, but I like to draw with ballpoint pens, and I like to draw with fountain tip pens. I have some friends who they just can't do a ballpoint pen. It seems like the worst thing to do. But, you know, growing up, like, that's what was around the house. And you just kind of playing around. As a kid, you don't even think about those sorts of things.
No, not at all.
So it takes time. But, yeah, there's still a big difference between the feeling of a touchscreen and a piece of paper. And so will that ever change? Will our tablets and our computers ever feel like paper? Who knows? But this is what I found that's the closest, but it still doesn't have the same feel. It's still a different experience.
Right, and I'm the same way, and that kind of introduces the next thing that I'm going to bring up, which is Photoshop, which you can do mixed media, basically. Like, if you're comfortable drawing on a piece of paper with a pencil or a pen, fine, do that. Where digital art really shines is layers and colors for me.
Yeah. Definitely.
Me doing my lines and stuff, I like doing that on paper, but you could take a scan or you could take a picture of it, and then you can import it into a program and then draw or add colors to it after that.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I've done. If you go to my laptop, Patrick, I've got a drawing of my dog, which I did just like your basketball drawing. I took a picture of him, and then I kind of drew some lines over him, stylized him, and colored him the way I wanted. And then I brought him into Photoshop, and you can still use a stylus and stuff with Photoshop to do drawing and things like that. Like I'm using a Surface Pro 4, which works pretty well. Where it starts to kind of chug is if you are doing smudging, which I like to do when I bring projects into Photoshop, because it
kind of softens the colors, less harsh.
Less harsh. It kind of adds that you can do depth of field.
Oh, kind of like a bokeh effect.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
so I kind of sometimes I'll like soften the edges that are farther away, and then the edges that I want to look sharper, you know, will be up front. So.
One of the things that I like for that is also the blur tool. If I don't actually want to nudge the lines that I have around, using the blur tool will also kind of add a little bit of that bokeh effect, and that's another option.
Yeah. So sometimes though, when I have like a really big drawing and I bring it into Photoshop and I try doing like filters and things like that, it'll kind of chug. So one of my recommendations is, if you have a nicer machine, is you can do some of the fine touches in a drawing app and then bring it onto your desktop and then start messing around with it there. But the nice thing about Photoshop is you have all the different like, let's see, I could do a blur of the whole thing. I could do like a motion blur, but there's so many different filters that you can do. You can add layers and stuff. But
yeah, you can actually like decide where the center point of that blur is, a radius, just a ton more options.
And you can do some stylizing and stuff. But Photoshop is definitely, for me, kind of it would be overwhelming if I were to just try Photoshop off the bat, you know, for drawing and everything like that. So one of the apps that I like to recommend, and it works on Windows, is called, that's a different drawing, called Leonardo. It's a pretty basic app. It's still kind of beta-y, but it works really well for me and what I like to do. You've got your different pencil lines, like you know, any other app. There's marker, there's calligraphy and stuff. And what I'll do is all the sketching in this program, and then I'll bring it into something like Photoshop. But the reason I like Leo for all the drawing stuff that I do is that it's pretty basic, and that when it works better for a stylus for me than if I was trying to do something in Photoshop. Like Photoshop still feels very much like a desktop app.
Yeah.
Where you can do some sketching and things like that.
But it's not really built for that per se.
But it's not, yeah, exactly. And I feel like when I'm resting my palm against the laptop and stuff, I always end up hitting toolbars and stuff if I'm using Photoshop.
Yeah.
Whereas like this kind of has less of a more minimal bezel around the edges and things like that.
Yeah, palm rejection is really important if you're going to be drawing on a tablet. I find with the iPad Pro and the pencil that the palm rejection is a little bit better than if I'm using third-party styluses and drawing tools. Not totally quite sure why that is, but it can be pretty key because you don't want to make like a mistaken smudge or something because it thinks your palm is a pen.
And like I was saying earlier, the best part of digital drawing is layers. Like, as soon as you wrap your head around layers and you start drawing that way, you can make mistakes and then move them around. You know, like, oh, I drew through that. Well, all right. I mean, I guess I could undo it, or I could turn that layer off and see what it looks like underneath, or I can move that layer up or down. So this program just works really well with a stylus. Right now, I think it's $39.99. It's still in beta. I've been using this for like 3 months, and it's never given me any issue. It's got all the options and things of, like, you can change the diameter, opacity, the flow of each brush that you use. And one thing that's nice is if you scroll side to side on when selecting like a toolbar or zoom or something, it'll adjust like the pencil size. So
that is cool.
Right now, my eraser is pretty large, but I can go up to the top and just hold down and then whoop, whoop, change how big the eraser is depending on my picture.
That's awesome. That makes sense. Like, you have an app that looks like a desktop app, but you're using it on touchscreen. So adding in those features makes it a lot more useful for touch. That's so brilliant.
Yeah, because I feel like a lot of user interfaces are designed around using a mouse or something. And this is just like purely works very well with a stylus.
Yep.
But yeah, and then when I do my drawings, I'll export them and then bring them into Photoshop or something like that, scale them down, and then save them to like Google Drive or something like that. Also coloring. Like, I could never do coloring with pen and paper and everything. I suck at coloring, but when you do it on like a digital format, you can kind of play around with it. If you make a mistake, you can go back. So I think Leo's the one I recommend, and then when you're done, you know, sketching what you wanted, you can bring it into Photoshop, do some little touches to it, and then usually I just share my stuff to like my Google Drive, and then I can pull it up on my phone and like, okay, I go to Twitter, go to Facebook,
Instagram, share it wherever you want.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you know, when I have people come to me and they say, okay, what drawing app should I use? Same with like what video editing app should I use? I want to get into shooting photography and editing, Lightroom, whatever. It's nice to give people some place to start where you can figure out if you even enjoy doing this. Yeah. If you buy an app like Leonardo, or if you download an app like Adobe Draw and you're only using it once a month or something, you're not going to want to go spend a bunch of money on the full Adobe Creative Suite, right?
Exactly.
But if you find yourself using this every day, or even like 3 or 4 days a week, if you have that free time and what you're reaching for is drawing, then it might be worth spending the money for that full suite of tools that Adobe or others can offer.
Yeah.
But it's kind of nice to have a place to experiment, doodle, play around, sketch around, and just even see if digital drawing is something you want to do a lot of and invest in.
Right, and I think you showed off really well what the capabilities of the iPad and iOS side are really well. And if you're interested in drawing on smaller, like the Surface is pretty good as a tablet. It's a little heavy, but you do have the full keyboard that it comes with, and the Surface Pen, I don't think I showed that off.
The Surface Pen, does it come with the Surface? I don't remember. But
I think
it comes with Surface devices.
It comes with it, yeah.
Nice.
So you get the pen, and what you can also buy, I think this was $12 when I got it, is a set of different tips.
Oh.
So say you're drawing and you just don't like the feel of it against the glass, or you want to try something different, there's all these other little tips that you can get, and a backup in case you ever drop this and break it, which is why I bought this kit to begin with.
Yeah.
The pen, it sticks to the side of the Surface through magnets, but if you knock it while you're walking, you could very easily break the tip on the end of it. But you could switch out the tips for like a harder plastic, softer, or more rounded tip so that you have more of like a surface area.
Cool.
Kind of change it up. It runs on like I think it's a 444 battery. Hold on. It's not rechargeable. Yeah, it's
interesting.
444 battery. Fortunately, I have not had to replace this.
Yeah.
And I've been using this thing for like 6 months, but because I do not have any 444 batteries. But just something to remember, it's not a rechargeable one. You're going to have to replace the battery eventually. But so far, I've had it for 6 months or almost, 6 months, and it's still charged fine.
Nice. Yeah, it seems like Microsoft is really embracing the creative space, especially with the big Surface that Leo's been using in a lot of shows.
Oh, the Surface Studio.
Surface Studio.
Yeah, I would love to use that, but I can't justify how little I draw. Like if I was professional, if I was Patrick's wife,
you'd consider it?
I would. It would be very strange if I was his wife. But,
not outside the realm of possibilities, though.
But if I was a professional doing it I was getting paid to do it, that would be something I would consider because you have the whole, the big sketch pad, you know.
Yeah,
and that's much more of a comfortable way for me to draw like that.
Yeah, that's almost like buying a drawing table. You know, you're going to be doing that at home at stationary. The thing that I really like about the Surface Pro and the iPad Pro is that these are devices that you can use in a laptop way. These are devices that you can use in a tablet way. These are devices that you can work on, you can draw on, you know, rather than having to be chained to a desk or chained at home. This is stuff you can take with you on the road. So it's kind of nice to give yourself that versatility and those options. And if you're like me and you're someone who their backpack was always full of like, you know, a book to read, a sketch pad to draw in, you know, your laptop, all these different things, a big old bulky charger. Now suddenly you can replace all of those things with maybe one device and the same charger that you're using for your phone or something like that. So there are options. You know, it's interesting. In the past, I have played a little bit with the Surface devices, tested some of those out, used them for a few months at a time. And even though the Surface Pen latches on magnetically onto the side, you know, it's like I'm still carrying these in whatever little like mesh pocket I have in my backpack. I'm pretty much keeping these next to my regular pencils and pens because I'm like deathly afraid of losing, you know, putting it magnetically on the display. You're chilling at your Starbucks or whatever, and then somehow it disappears. Worst nightmare. So I don't even go there. I don't even play around with it. It's like it's in my backpack or it's in my hand, and that's pretty much it. And that's how I treat my Apple Pencil as well.
All it took was for me using the Surface for a week, just relying on the magnetic to hold the pen, and then breaking the tip. There'd be like, nope, now I just keep the pen in my backpack in the little slot with all the other pencils and things that I have. So.
Exactly. And it's nice that both of those drawing tools are basically about the same size as a pen or a pencil, so you can have that option to do so.
Yeah. And you know, as expensive as it is to buy like a new laptop or an iPad or something like that, art supplies aren't cheap either.
Definitely not.
And I would say that this has helped me become a better artist because I'm still practicing like how to draw. And so when then I do go back to paper and stuff, I have like the same motion that I, you know, practiced on the Surface. It translates pretty well.
Yeah, there's, you know, it's just in the same way that if you know, you're going from like a harder paper stock, or if you're going from watercolors to oils, or if you're going from charcoal to inks, there's always a little bit of learning curve. Your style will be slightly different. There's going to be some translation. One of the things I was encouraged by is, because I've been drawing digitally for a while now, oh man, I guess like one of the first tablets I was drawing on was the old Samsung Galaxy Tab, you know, from like 2012, quite a while ago. Your style, your drawing style, whatever that might look like, starts to come with you over time. I mean, the first stuff that I drew digitally years ago was just totally crummy, and I'm pretty hypercritical of myself. And
I think most artists are.
Yeah, I think everything looks like crap, but you know, over time, you can kind of see some of that come along. So, you know, if you're trying this, if you love drawing on paper and pen, you decide to give this a shot, you know, maybe digital will be your new favorite thing. Maybe paper and pen will still be the way to go. But don't get discouraged. Don't give up. Put in the time. Try the apps. Find your workflow. It might be different. But if you put in the time, it's really worth it. Like you said, layers, colors.
Yes.
There's all of these things that add a new perspective to your artwork, and there are definitely stuff that I can do digitally that I just haven't found an analog counterpart for.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a perfect way to wrap up this episode by asking people to, if you haven't, join the community at Google+, just search for Know How, and do some drawings. Tell us what your favorite apps were, what maybe we might have skipped over, or things we just haven't heard of. Yeah, see, there it is. Just look for the Know How logo. Oh, it looks like people are participating in the fidget spinner project that we did a couple of weeks ago. So this is the place to go if you have any questions, post your projects, and like from this episode, show us some drawings, or tell us what apps that you prefer to use as a drawing. But that's not the only place you can find us on the web. If you want to reach out more directly or find out what we're doing behind the scenes, what's coming up on a new episode, you're going to want to follow me on Twitter. I'm at cranky_hippo.
And I'm at Nate OG.
That's right. And then again, thanks to the third member of the team today, who is he's not substitute, but he's come off the bench. Patrick Delahanty, thanks for doing the show today.
My pleasure.
Where can people follow you on the socials?
I've got a anime convention podcast. Anime and Comic Conventions comes out every Monday. Nice. It's at animecons.tv. We have an Apple TV app too.
Cool.
Oh,
cool.
wow. That is awesome.
Nice.
Very cool.
And if people wanted to follow a real artist, does Svetlana have a Twitter?
She has a Twitter and she has a website. The website is at svetlania.com. She's got all our links there.
Nice. Yes, I would recommend people go check that out. Her art is amazing, and I love the book that she just... What was the book that she just came out with called?
It's called Brave.
Brave,
and
right.
It's got ICV2 just reviewed it and gave it 5 stars and said it should be in every library, school, and house.
Very cool. I've read Awkward. I'll have to check out Brave.
Oh, it's so good.
She's a real pro. She's a real pro. We should bring her
We
on
probably
sometime
should have had Svet
and have her walk us through her work.
Can you have Svet join the Google Plus community and post some of her stuff and embarrass us?
I'll tell her to do that. She wants the new iPad Pro too. So
okay.
We'll be getting that soon.
Over the Surface, the big Surface Studio?
She had, she said it's too big.
Too big? Well, everybody has their preference.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, I guess that'll do it for this episode. Thanks for watching. And now that you know how, go draw.